Have you ever wondered what heaven really looks like? A lot of people have speculated, but no one really knows for sure. But the Bible does give us a brief glimpse of what heaven will include. And it's not just golden streets. It includes something a little bit more special. And when we learn about that, we'll see that heaven isn't so much about perfection, but who perfects it. Want to know more? Let's listen.
Hiking up a mountain is a grueling task. And the higher the mountain, the more difficult the journey becomes. And if you ask people who hike mountains why they do it, they will likely talk about the feeling they get when they see the world from the top. They feel as if they are on top of the world and as if the world will go on forever. Now, I'm going to have to take their word for it because I personally think that hiking is a cruel and unusual punishment. But some people, for whatever reason, enjoy it. But I think that many theologians have done a really good job at describing what heaven will be like, because they describe it in a way that is that mountaintop experience. And so in the first part of chapter 21 in the book of Revelation, John gives a vision of what life will be like when all of God's people are reunited with him in the new heaven. A new heaven that has come down and joined together with the earth. It will be like nothing that we have ever seen before, and it will absolutely take our breath away. For not only will everything be made new, and the things of the old will be gone away, but God will place his throne in the center of this new creation. He will live in and among his people, his children, for all time. We will no longer need to ask the question, where is God in all of this? Because we will be able to see him there, in and among us, whatever we want. But it's not just that God has moved into a new neighborhood in town. No, he's also brought something else with him. He's brought a removal of all those things that have caused us pain, all those things that have caused us discomfort, all those things that have caused us to cry and to mourn. He will have made suffering indeed a thing of the past. And I mean, think about it. All of those things that you wish could have been taken away, all of those things that made life just seemingly unbearable in that moment. Think about God removing all of these things from your life, not just now, but forevermore. That is what the new heaven will look like. That is what John is telling us it is going to be. And that is amazing, isn't it? I think it's pretty amazing. And the thing is, some of us might doubt, well, how do I know that I've got a place there? How do I know that God wants me in this place? And the thing is, God provides reassurance. He says to John, quote, "Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true." And then God proclaims the exact reassurance to where he promises to provide not just life from his wellspring, his spring of life, but he makes the even more important promise that he will always be our God, and we will always be his people. Let me say that again. God will be our God, and we will be his people. Not God might be our God, and we might be his people if we've done everything right, but will. That is the promise of grace and the promise of inclusion. This is the promise of being among God's faithful, that keeps our hope flowing even when the world says that our hope should have died a long time ago. This is the promise that brings us comfort when all the other avenues of encouragement in our life have seemingly run dry. And it is the promise that extends through all time and all space. And yet, it can be very easy for us who live in such relative comfort, who, for most of us, have everything we need and a great deal of what we want, to remember why this promise is so important. We can even sometimes fall into the trap of questioning why heaven would be so great, because we have it so great right here and right now. And some might even wonder if heaven really is this mountaintop experience that others describe. And in fact, when a seminary student named Lawrence wrote his first sermon, he made some observations that really serve as a wake-up call for all of us as to why this vision of heaven is still so important. He said, quote, "I've been in the United States for several months. I've seen great wealth here, the fine homes, the cars, the clothes. I've listened to many sermons in churches here too. But I've yet to hear one sermon about heaven, because everyone has so much in this country that no one preaches about heaven. People here don't seem to need it. In my country, most people have very little, so we preach on heaven all the time. We know how much we need it." And the fact of the matter is this: we do, in fact, need heaven. And we need it not for the streets paved with gold and all the other glorious splendor that it's said to contain. Those things, my friends, are not the mountaintop experience we're describing today. But the person who lives therein is. It's the fact that God dwells in and among his people in heaven. And that, my friends, is the exact reason that we do need it. Because we often think that we can do everything on our own, that we don't need help, that asking for help, that being vulnerable is for the weak. But then, what happens to us when the inevitable wake-up call that we all get at one point or another comes? And that wake-up call is the fact that we must rely on others to help us, that life is not meant to be alone, but it is meant to be done in community, that you need a village. It is at this exact point that we crack, that we have breakdowns, meltdowns, and shutdowns, that we realize, oh, do we realize that we really don't have it all together? And it is in those exact moments that we remember what heaven is truly like. We remember that God is, in fact, with us. He dwells with us, and he dwells among us. It is in those moments that we get a glimpse of what God has planned. And if this is hard for you to picture, let me paint you one. Let me paint you a picture of what heaven can and will look like, even as that brief glimpse here on earth. It looks like over 30 people of all shapes, sizes, backgrounds, and ages coming together to share the abundance that we have all around us. Over this past week, we have had so many folks coming together to make yesterday's really, really free market possible. We were able to receive the generosity of the community around us, and not just with their donations of items which were great and so appreciated, but with their donation of their time and their talents. Now, some did bring those physical things, but others brought their talents for organizing, for shaping spaces and experiences, for feeding others, for bringing laughter. Because, oh my goodness, there were moments when we needed that laughter. And those who brought their talent of a spirit of calm. Others brought their willingness to work and to see what could be rather than what was. And some brought their humility. And yes, my friends, that is a gift. But all gathered together for one purpose: to share the abundance that God has blessed us with over 531 people to be exact. And if it weren't for all of those gifts, all of those talents, and all that graciously donated time, it never would have happened. And in the midst of all of that, God was most certainly present, and that hope was abundant. And it is in these moments that we see but a glimpse of that hope which is coming for us. It is in these moments that we can remember that when life gets hard, because it will, and that when life seems hopeless, because it will, that we do not do it alone. That hope will abound from the most unique and the most unexpected of places, and it will catch you most delightfully off guard. The mountaintop experience, my friends, is found in knowing that you are never alone, that God will be with you always, that you are a part of his people, and that he will always be your God. This is, my friends, the knowledge that we need, and this is the hope that we always must remember. For in those moments of hope, in those moments of mountaintop experiences, we find the comfort that only God and God alone can provide.
So heaven isn't just about golden streets, but it's about being in community with God. And it's about growing community with one another. Now, if you've enjoyed being part of this community, we invite you to subscribe to the channel. Every time you subscribe, you allow us to get this message of community out to even more people. But we also invite you to share this message and to like it. As you share it with somebody else who needs the good news that community is where it's at, you will be bringing that hope, the hope that only God can give, to others. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.